This episode contains spoilers for Telltale Games The Walking Dead series. As such, it includes scenes of violence and gore directly from the game. Hello and welcome back to the Push the Smart Water Cooler. This week we are back with Telltale Games The Walking Dead series. This time we are taking control of Michonne for their first ever mini-series, which is only going to be 3 episodes long. So this episode, we're going to be talking about episode 1, In Too Deep, that came out in last month. In March?
What is time?
That came out in February of 2016. After the second season of The Walking Dead, we were a little wary of more outings in the series, and we also didn't really know where else the series was going to go. So I'm actually, leading up to this episode, I was pretty excited because I love Michonne. I feel like she's probably one of the best characters to come out of Walking Dead. And because it's not connected to Clementine's story, and it's just a mini-series, I thought that it could probably do more interesting things with its characters instead of just killing them one episode or not, and then saving them to die the next episode. We shall see.
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily, because Game of Thrones has shown us when they have an existing roster of characters, they don't always know what to do with them.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the 3-episode structure might force them to really focus on the dramatic storytelling, as far as making it, for lack of a better word, focused. Whereas a lot of, like, The Walking Dead, it felt there was a real sense of, towards the end, like, they don't really know where they're going with this, do they?
Yeah.
They're making this up as they go along. Which one would hope that is not the case for the 3 episodes. But I had to ask you, I think you read more of the comics than I have, and this is based on the comics, and you love Michonne so much. What was it like playing as Michonne?
I was conflicted all the time. Instead of being, what do I want to do? I was like, okay, what would Michonne do?
That's what I was wondering.
I mean, because when we first talked about The Wolf Among Us, that was the big thing behind our decision-making a lot of the times, is what would Bigby do?
Yeah.
And for this one, I feel like most of the choices kept in line with the character, so I didn't feel like I had to think too hard about it.
That's interesting. Yeah, this made me realize I didn't really know anything about Michonne.
Yeah.
Because at first I went in, I was like, I'm going to make decisions. And then I'm making my decision, I'm like, I have no fucking idea what she would do here. Because I don't know her character other than the fact that she carries swords.
That is the thing, is like the main takeaway I get from the comic book series, at least, is that she is just extremely competent at survival. And so the interpersonal relationships bit, I'm kind of like, Well,
I think part of that, too, is Robert Kirkman can't write characters for shit, especially women. So I would chalk that up to that. On the show, I haven't watched it for a few seasons, but I feel like there were some scenes where they really tried to explore her interpersonal relationships with, like, Carl and Rick, and it was really nice that she kind of had a sense of humor that I don't remember from the comics that I read.
Yeah.
So I tried to think about that a little bit, but we didn't really even get much a choice for that.
Well, that's the thing, is I was hoping that the game character would be more informed of the TV show character. I haven't watched the TV series that much. I watched, like, the first few episodes, and I just could not continue watching. But I hear that it gets kind of better, or at least more compelling. I don't know. I hear Michonne is pretty great. And because she has that sense of humor, and because she has these, clearly defined relationships with the other characters, it makes her more compelling and more livelier. And that was probably one of my least favorite things about this, is that I felt like no matter what I said, it was going to be darkly delivered. Which is kind of unfortunate, because Samira Wiley, who is the voice actress for Michonne in this game, plays Pusey in Orange is the New Black, and that is such a fantastic character, and I know that she can do so much more than just, dark and broody, but I didn't really get that in this game.
As I was playing this game, there were 3 kind of points of reference that I kept coming back to. One is the fact that I think at this point several years ago, holy crap, we did an episode on mothers in games. And Michonne, her status as a mother is front and center. And that is something you don't see a lot in games. Usually, as we discussed in the episode, we can link, motherhood is treated as like a footnote, like color, that doesn't actually reflect on anything you're doing, or it's a way to kind of get a character out of the action. And that's if it shows up at all, because predominantly it is not in games at all. But a lot of the drama hinges on Michonne as a mother. To the point where when we find the photograph of the two children, I was like, oh my god, she's going to get 2 newts. It's going to happen here. We're going to finally get our Ripley.
That is actually something that went through my head at the same time. I was like, oh, motherhood. Because like I was saying earlier, like to me, Michonne just kind of stands out as a competent survivor. And it was really interesting in the very beginning segment how they kind of were able to merge her dramatic history with just like a zombie fight scene. And so I thought it was a pretty good intro, but pretty soon after that, it gets into the Telltale ways, I guess.
In what way?
Well, first off, let me say that I did like the setting. I think boat setting for like a zombie apocalypse is really cool, and it's something that we haven't seen a lot.
It's usually where it ends.
Yeah. And so seeing in the open water and seeing, when they get to Norma's place and kind of the almost claustrophobic interiors of that area, and also how they were able to show like a new side of the zombie threat with the walkers coming up through the water.
That was a pretty good set piece.
Yeah. But the thing that just bothers me so much is I'm really sick of just bad people doing bad things.
I know.
I'm like so sick of the whole, maybe humans are the real monsters. I mean, we've had 2 seasons of The Walking Dead. We've had like 150 issues of the comic book, and we have the TV series. And I really wanted there to be something more to it this time.
Which that goes into another thing that I was thinking about while playing this game, was that, and I'm sure a lot of other people have written about this, the reference that comes to my mind is actually the Cracked podcast, but they were talking about how in real life, apocalyptic situations where the government systems fail, people come together. The Donner Party is the exception, not the rule. And yet in our apocalyptic fiction, especially our zombie fiction, it's the people that are bad. And their theory was the fact that in a lot of these fictional settings, like the comic books, the main character is white man. So in order to make him look good, you have to lower the bar for everybody else because he already has a leg up on everybody by being a white dude. So it's like, wow, Rick, you didn't cannibalize your child. Great work.
Gold star.
Yeah. But the Walking Dead games have somehow sidestepped that because they have starred a black man, a small black girl, and now a black woman. And yet they still play into that we are the Walking Dead thing. And it's like, why? Like, what does that mean? And I don't think I have an answer for that. But that was another thing that was kind of sitting in the back of my head while I was playing.
And I think probably the worst part about it is that it doesn't really add anything new to the conversation.
We've seen this before 1,000 times.
Yeah, like I was hoping that they were kind of setting up, because you're introduced to Sam and her brother, whose name I forget and don't really care to learn because he dies.
Yeah.
And then you have Norman and Randall, who is, just evil mad number 3.
Can I say I was all excited about the fact that Michonne wasn't sexualized until Randall fucking winked at her, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh, I didn't even...
We're gonna do this?
I think I missed that part.
It's a very quick thing. He kind of like winks at her, and maybe it's not supposed to be that, but knowing the history of her character, it just like pissed me off.
I know. I was very wary. I was like, please, for the love of God, just don't do that.
No Governor 2.0, please.
Yeah. But what I was hoping would happen is that you have Sam and her brother, and then you have Norma and Randall, and I wanted them to kind of show like 2 separate stories that are both believable. And so you had no idea which of the 2 to trust. But instead, Randall's like, I'm going to kill you and beat you up. And the kids are like, save us.
Yeah.
And so it was just generic, which is, if you're going to do a generic zombie story, I just don't see why you would do it. And I don't see why you'd waste a character like Michonne on that. So I'm hoping there's more to it. I don't know. This is just the first episode.
Yeah. Which kind of brings it to the third thing I had at the back of my mind while I was playing this game. So you have a scene where Michonne she's being questioned by Norma. Mm-hmm. And you have to choose whether or not to tell the truth. Either way, she's going to not believe you. Mm-hmm. And this is really reminiscent of Game of Thrones, which we hated.
Yeah.
But also Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 1, when Clementine is bit and she has to convince everyone that she's not. And I was trying to think, why did that scene work for me? Was it just because I was naive and didn't know any better? Or was there something special? And I think, if I remember correctly, part of that scene is there's someone on her side. It's not just like her versus somebody else and her saying, I'm not bit, and them saying no.
Yeah.
There's a third party like, hey, no, I think she's telling the truth. Mm-hmm. And then the compromise is to lock her in the shed. And it's like here, there's no, it's that Game of Thrones problem where, did you do this? No, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
End of discussion. It's over.
And I also didn't like how, I felt like, when it comes up, be like, X person will remember that. Mm-hmm. Or X person thinks you lied. Those were starting to get a little too long. It's like, this person thought you lied and now they're going to be angry.
Yeah, and there was one person like, yeah, you told the truth, but it doesn't sound too good. And it's like, wait, what?
I know.
Wait, what does that mean? I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I want to have faith.
Mm-hmm. There were some cool segments, some very tense scenes here that I think we're missing from a lot of the recent games.
Like what?
So I think we were talking earlier, you went in through the window, mm-hmm. right, of the ship?
Yeah. Did
you have to unlock any doors, or how did you discover, or did you discover the party of just like slaughtered people?
You walk in there mm-hmm. and you turn your flashlight on and then you get attacked by zombies.
Oh, yeah. That's different. Okay.
And then pretty much you get to take a look around and see the slaughtered mm-hmm. people, and then also the zombie that was like holding the door open or closed.
So, okay. So I went up the ladder, and so I had to sneak in. Mm. And to do that, you have to like break open the door, reach in through the window, and unlock it. Mm-hmm. And the way you have to kind of inch her hand down. And as you're inching her hand down, she can't see, but you can see there is a hand of a dead person handcuffed to the doorknob. And so there's just like, as soon as you see it, you're like, oh shit, you stop pressing the button. And it's like, but I have to go. And so there's like this real tension, like you don't want to go forward, but you have to. And like, that was a really genuinely good scene. And it gave me, I wouldn't say hope for the rest of it, but it was really good. And I didn't understand why the kids were lying, because I feel like it was supposed to be like a big decision. Like, are you going to like go along with the kid's story? But it's like, I don't know these kids. I don't understand what's happening. I know I just got an exposition dump, but it was generic as fuck. And so I didn't care.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel the urgency that I think it wanted me to feel. Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, is like there's not enough gray area in the game yet. Mm-hmm. And that's where I feel like these zombie stories, if you're going to focus on, humanity is the real monster, you have to have a lot of ambiguity and gray area instead of mm-hmm. Sam and her brother seem okay. These people are obviously assholes who are tying you up and punching you and making this guy piss himself. Like, there's no ambiguity there. It's just kind of, I've been there, done that.
You can't say humans are the real monsters if there's no humans.
Yes. That's great. Put that on a bumper sticker. Or not. Nobody will understand.
I don't know. There's some pretty weird bumper stickers in my apartment complex.
Somebody will stop you in traffic and be like, that's deep, man.
Yeah.
The great mm-hmm. thing about it being a miniseries is that it's not going to take us long to see how bad or good it's going to be. And it also is not as much of a commitment as being like 2 episodes into Game of Thrones and being like, oh my god, there are 4 left. But I'm still kind of hopeful. I don't know why. I've been burned many times, but...
Yeah. I think I'm just a little bit burnt out mm-hmm. on zombie apocalypse. The grim dark. I think this really kind of solidified my feelings from the Game of the Year episode, where it's like, I really liked Assassin's Creed and Splatoon. It's like, this kind of made me realize that, like, yes, I was correct to think that I am really done with grimdark for a while.
Do you want to go to choices?
I guess so.
So the very first choice, which I don't know if it was really that much of a choice, but it was, did you pull the trigger or lower the gun?
Oh, I lowered the gun. I was mad at that scene.
Me too. It
like, are we doing this?
it just didn't fit. And it's like, why?
She's so good at what she does.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was like, this is Michonne. It doesn't make sense for the character at all.
The one thing that we know doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Is that she's not going to give up. So that frustrated me. But 69.3% of people lowered the gun, so... And then did you enter the abandoned ferry through the stairs or through the window?
Stairs, because as soon as they were like, they're will we be in close quarters, it's like, of course I'm going to go the stairs then.
I know. Honestly, I was like, you're not even going to give me like a counterpoint for why I should go in the window. 55.1% went through the stairs and 44.9% went through the window.
Oh, that's surprising.
And then I didn't even kind of realize that this was an option, but did you ambush Randall in the storeroom?
Oh, I did not.
Neither did I. And that was 40% of players did not. I literally just played it this morning, and I can't even remember the option to do so.
Well, yeah, because it was like the girl, Newt, is trying to get you to, like, she's trying to tell you how bad he is, and we gotta do this. And it was like, these are stakes I've heard 1,000 times to the point that they're meaningless. Why am I going to risk this right now? There's clearly 3 more episodes. Like, we have time.
And then after that one, did you sell Greg out to Norma? For my game, I kind of went back and forth because all I did was basically tell the truth. But near the end, I was kind of relenting a little bit and being like, I'm the one who lied. So for me, it said that I shared the blame with Greg. And that was 54.6% of players.
The only thing I know I consciously lied about, which wasn't totally a lie, was I told her there was nobody else with us, because as soon as the other girl had told me that they'd claim everything on the water, I didn't want her to know that I had a boat. So I probably sold him out.
But that would be 45.4% who did let him take the blame. And the last decision, did you let Sam shoot Zachary?
No, that was a terrible decision.
I know. Neither did I. And that was 83.5% of players who spared Zachary.
Who probably thought the same thing, like, why is this a choice? Like...
And that was that last scene, it felt very Game of Thrones in that there were a lot of different options, but I felt like ultimately I couldn't do anything. I don't know if I liked it or not, because it was really hectic and like everybody's yelling all at once and you're just trying to like calm them down.
Yeah. Can I say I grabbed the pipe to kill Greg? I don't know why I grabbed it. And then as soon as I got there to do it, I was like, I should have got the screwdriver. This is going to be so gory. Like,
I'm sorry, Sam. I actually chose the screwdriver.
Yeah, I think that would have been the more humane way to do it.
But it took like 4 stabs in his eye.
Seriously? So it's the same.
Yeah.
It was the same.
Yeah.
Because wasn't the whole point of like the last thing? It was like, that's the kind of weapon you want because it's really easy in and out. It's not going to get stuck.
Yes.
Have we learned nothing?
So, I don't even know.
Fix your continuity, Telltale.
I know. Is a screwdriver a good weapon? Yes or no?
Let us know in the comments.
And don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date on all of our latest episodes and water cooler discussions.
Thank you. I was gonna go back in anyway. I just couldn't leave this behind. It's too damn gorgeous.